Okay, now we're going to talk about the detailer as a salesperson, and the other words that you'll hear for the detailer are compliant. You'll hear cautious thinker. You'll hear analytical, and you'll hear melancholic. Uh, what what animal they are, I don't know. Anyway, the great thing about detailers as salespeople is they're great with technical and product knowledge, as you might imagine. They are great people. Detailers are great people to call on other detailers. So if they're selling to engineers, people in the computer field, people that need to think sequentially and in details, these are great people to have, especially call on people in the technical field. Technical people typically tend to sell very well to technical people. They give well-organized presentations. They've got their act together. They have their support materials. Often the detailer can portray a great confidence because they have a good depth of knowledge, and they do their research. They leave little to chance. So they tend to be very good with organized presentations. They'll have all of their slides together. They'll have rehearsed their information. That Steve Jobs was always known for his rehearsals of his presentations. He would rehearse over and over again. And detailers, of course, that was the detailer portion of his personality. He wouldn't leave anything to chance in a presentation, so these people are very good at presenting, especially products or information or services that are very detailed or require, a good, orderly explanation of the materials. Of course, the detailer, when you're hiring a salesperson, if they are a good detailer, they may tend to over-evaluate, and they may tend to overload the prospect with too much detail. I was literally on a sales call 2 weeks ago with the sales guy and the technical guy, and these are some guys that had these guys had invented a lead generation system that I was interested in, and the technical guy, who was very technical, besides the fact that he had this very grating voice, he would constantly, he just couldn't stop giving detail about the system. And I would ask a question. I would try to ask a question or try to make a comment. And I had another partner of mine that was on this call, and he was asking me questions to help him evaluate. So we had 4 people on the call. Admittedly, it was a little bit of a crazy call with 4 people on it, and we were watching a go-to webinar type presentation. But the salesperson, who was a detailer, he kept interrupting me. He kept giving more information than he needed to give me. And it became so annoying that I literally had to stop him and say, I said, if you would let me speak and stop interrupting me, I said, it's very annoying when you do that. And I'm trying to make a point to my partner here on the phone. And he said, I'm sorry. And then continue to jump right back in and talk over me and interrupts me again. So you have to be careful with detailers and understanding that they will continually give people information, so much information, and be so enamored with the details and the logic of what they're selling that they may totally forget to take into account the comments, the questions, the attitude of the person that they're selling to. Again, our detailers can be a little cut and dry. They can be, very direct, and so they can seem a little cold and impersonal, and possibly even a little bit aloof, especially to the expressives and to the relators. This is a problem because the relator will say, well, yes, the presentation was very good, very efficient. I understand everything, but something about the salesperson I don't like. You have to teach your detailers to try to try to be a little more personable, to ask more questions, and actually tone down their ability to give information, and actually to not give that much detail and actually take an interest, especially in someone who's an expressive or a relator. If a detailer is selling to an expressive or a relator, and the relator or the expressive is telling stories, asking questions, giving personal information, the detailer sometimes can miss that. And so they need to be cognizant of the fact that they also need to raise their level a little bit of relating to people, and they need to ask a few more questions. They need to appear a little more interested. And you need to fake it. I mean, listen, as I was describing to you that I was toning down my expressiveness and became a good listener. Well, I was faking it. It's not my natural order. The natural way of being would be to talk, and beat the customer to death with my words and get the order. I was not being my natural self. I was adjusting my personality style to the person that I was selling to by listening and asking questions. You have to do the same. The detailer has to do the same thing, but they have to do it in the reverse. The detailer they need to smile more. They need to be a little more personable. They need to look around in that room, that office or that home, and find something that they can talk about with the person. Not to go overboard. I don't want you to try to turn your detailers into expressives, but you have to understand if you're a detailer or you're managing detailers, they tend to be cut and dry and cold and impersonal. They'll fill out all the reports. Their expense reports will be there. You go to their trunk, all of their files are there. Their product demonstrations, their samples, everything's perfect. But are they actually building relationships with people? They need to step that up a notch. So when you're managing the detailers, you have to see the detailers as and help them to understand that they need to build some relationships. They need to cut back on overloading people with too much information. Let them give their very orderly presentations. But the other thing that the detailer has to watch out for is they have to watch out for the idea of making the issue too much as it relates to the details. They have to be careful that they're not overloading people with so many details that it just overwhelms them and they lose the sale because they're not bringing any personality into it. So this is how you if you're a detailer, keep this in mind. If you're managing detailers or you're hiring detailers, keep these things in mind as you go through your hiring process, your managing process, and also the process that you use for yourself in order to manage yourself and to manage your strengths and your weaknesses.